Reality is the only word in the language that should always be used in quotes. Reality is the only word in the language that should always be used in quotes.
I don't want another one of your rational explanations. I know what I experienced. I know what I experienced. I know what I experienced. And I'm not crazy. I know what I experienced. I know what I experienced. I know what I experienced. And I'm not crazy.
Hey there guys, just wanted to do a quick video response to Atheists being owned. Not really sure if it's definitive ownage, but I think you guys bring up some interesting points that I'm cool with addressing and throwing in my 2 atheist cents on. The first question I had though is whether or not you have your terminology right when it comes to your belief structure. You describe yourselves as theists, but theism conceives of God as personal and active in the governance and organization of the world and universe, i.e. that God is he's involved. He's present. He participates, and there is some sort of personal relationship with him. Theism, on the other hand, tends to be a little bit more open about that we don't necessarily know anything about this God, that there was a supreme being or intellect or intelligent designer or whatever who did create the universe, but after creating it just kind of became disinterested and doesn't really interfere in human lives or do anything to transcend the laws of nature. It just pretty much set these natural laws in order, set human beings loose, and just kind of kicked back and said, hey kids, have at it. So either way, it still kind of gets back to the whole, where did it all begin, and an argument from ignorance, that if we don't know, somewhere the supernatural comes into play, something that's invisible, unseen, untestable, transcending natural law comes into play. It's something that we can't test, we can't verify, we can't falsify. And that kind of leads into the nature of your main question. You say that every argument that an atheist makes is based on assumption, and if that assumption is not proved or is somehow disproved, then everything else falls apart. I guess that would be proved by there being a God, or some sort of evidence for a God, or definitive evidence that there's not a God. So it's not so much based on this assumption that there is no God. The statement there is no God is more of a conclusion rather than a premise. It's the fact that aside from holy books and from personal anecdote, there's really no good evidence for any God, let alone the Judeo-Christian God, and furthermore, there's really not any evidence for the supernatural. I've made some other videos kind of talking about this, and I'll probably make some more. But let's just stick to your underlying question for this all. How do you disprove God if your material world is not real? I think this is actually a really interesting point of view. I've heard this expressed I've heard it expressed as the Matrix analogy, but I've also heard it expressed as a brain in a jar. Like, is there any way to definitively prove that we are all not just brains in jars in some scientist's lab being fed all kinds of complex stimuli? And see, there's really not. But I mean, is that really a good reason to think that we are? I mean, if you can't prove something false, that doesn't necessarily make it true. I guess in certain fundamentalist minds, I mean, it does make sense, since, I mean, like I was just saying, since it can't be proved false, it must be true. So, I don't know. I guess when it comes down to science, too, just because one particular aspect of a science data might be flawed, that doesn't really mean that the whole theory is wrong. I think that's, just to throw in the whole evolution creation debate, that's kind of where it comes in there too. Oh no, something from evolutionary theory has been proven to be wrong, therefore the whole theory itself is wrong. So I'm getting a little bit off point, but I think getting back to the how do you disprove God if your material world is not real question could actually just really be cut off after God and before if. How do you disprove God? How do you prove God? You really can't. And the atheist standpoint, and it's not so much a set of beliefs as religious beliefs are, which is kind of a way that religious fundamentalists try to put themselves on equal footing, is to say that, you know, atheism is a religion and atheists have the same faith-based beliefs as, you know, biblical creationists and believers in God do, which is really not the case. Atheists, as you all know, I think one of you said you were an atheist for years or whatever. It's just based on the evidence that there is no supernatural, let alone the specific God that you know, one would attribute characteristics to. So that's more it than anything. And how do I prove / think / assume the material world is real? Because everything is based on perceptions. Okay. Yes, I mean, and a lot of philosophers throughout time have touched upon this and probably spoken about it far more eloquently and insightfully than I. But the fact that we share perceptions is, I think, kind of a fundamental cornerstone of reality, whether or not something is real. That I don't necessarily hold the beliefs that, you know, if I don't know if you guys can tell me, is my camera still recording? I think it's still there, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay, it's back. So I'm sorry if you missed that last part. If there's just a blank space where I close my eyes, I'm not sure. But everyone else shares the same perceptions. I mean, the perceptions may be a little bit different. For instance, I'm actually colorblind. When it comes to colors like red and green, I have trouble discerning those two colors. Whereas, you know, someone with normal vision can look at one of those, you know, the little dot test with all the little circle, and, you know, you're supposed to see numbers. I usually don't see the number, or I see the wrong number. So does that mean that there is no number there? Does that mean, you know, definitively, because I don't see it, that it's not there? No. I mean, our perceptions can be flawed, and that's what kind of gets us into beliefs in the supernatural, that, you know, we see something that we don't necessarily believe or that we can't explain, therefore we can attribute it to the supernatural. So as far as like the monkey thing, the blue monkey, I've not heard that before, but I don't really think that's the best argument. If someone tells you all monkeys are blue and then you see a monkey that's not blue, that doesn't somehow prove that there are no monkeys. It just proves that whoever told you monkeys are blue is an idiot. So I don't know. I hope this makes enough sense that, you know, you guys think it's a valid response. But basically, I guess there is really no way to prove that the world is real, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it automatically proves that it's not real. Again, there's no way to prove that it's not real, so that doesn't automatically, you know, necessitate its reality. So I don't know. It's really something interesting, and I'm definitely going to be reading up more about different philosophers through time and beliefs in this, because I mean it's definitely fascinating, the whole nature of reality. And, you know, like the Thrill Kill Cult song that I threw out there is, you know, reality is the only word in the language that should always be used in quotes.